sessions and stuff?
Not so much. I don't know. I can't really do remote sessions that well, but I'm mixing a song for someone there now. They just sent me like all the stems, so I'm just like sorting all of that out there now.
Is that what have you kind of started doing more of that since touring's been removed?
Yeah, I kind of like came off tour and then realised I wanted to start getting into songwriting and stuff, so I've been doing that. I've started writing with my girlfriend for a bit, and then she just started a band called Head Ballet, so I've been writing with them. I've been writing with Luke and stuff as well. Luke, Saint Phoenix, primarily them, to be honest. But
they're quite different genres as well. They're kind of at either side.
Yeah.
Looks a bit more classical.
I'm just kind of branching out, to be honest. I'm happy to do anything, to be honest. It sounds I'm really enjoying being in the studio at the moment. But yeah, and then decided that I kind of like love doing production now, which I never really done before. So now I'm like doing this, and I'm like, it's so fun.
So it kind of changed the way you write when you start getting into production. The way you think about it, yeah.
I never used to write that much. Like I used to write with Dom, but I would always play guitar and stuff. I never really think about it in the aspect of being like, I'm actually going to start writing a song. It would just be me giving guitar parts to songs.
That's quite a producer way of kind of looking at it, though. Like kind of filling in the blanks and building it out.
Yeah. But yeah, since lockdown, I started thinking about it a bit differently. I started thinking about like song structures and chord progressions and like lyrics and just trying to do it all, and I've done loads now. I'm just like, it's so fun. I love it. But like I think before I never used to songwrite that much because I always thinking like the bigger picture, which is probably a more producer type thing. I can never just think of the song. I need to think of everything else that comes with it.
In terms of like the touring and the
more
everything surrounding
like
the song. What do you mean?
Like in the production sense of like someone's like, oh yeah, and they like play me a song on piano, then I'm like hearing the drums and I'm hearing like all the little bits in the background and like everything, like I'm hearing the song as a whole and where the song needs to go, rather than just hearing like chords and somebody singing. For me to like write before, I was always just like, I can't really like sell this idea to you because I've not got like, I can't show you everything I've done. So that now that I've started getting into it and I've like started using Logic and stuff, I'm like, fuck yeah, I can just like throw everything at it and be like, yeah, this is what I meant. Like that. So yeah.
It's like that. You ever seen that film Begin Again?
Begin Again? No, what's that?
It's I think it's like Mark Ruffalo and Keira Knightley or whatever, but it's about a down on his luck record producer who finds this kind of new musical talent. But there's a scene in that where he sees her playing on an acoustic guitar.
I have seen that. I watched that ago. And they like record outside in New York City and stuff like that. Yeah, it's so genius. That's exactly what it's like. I hear everything else in the background and I'm like, fuck, I need to get on that.
I think the guy who made that was in a band as well, so you can see that it's kind of coming from that.
Do you know what I watched the other night? Sound of Metal. You seen that yet?
No, I've not seen that. What's that?
It's a movie about a guy that's in a metal band with his girlfriend and they're like touring a van across America. But he's like, because he's a metal drummer, he doesn't use earplugs or that. And then he just like goes deaf on tour.
Oh, this is the Riz Ahmed film.
Yeah, and it's all about him coping with like, and he used to be an addict, and it's like him coping with like being deaf but also being a musician, and then he just like, obviously he can't do it. So he has to like go and learn to be deaf. It's mental. Like the whole movie is just insane, and like the editing and the actual audio is just fucked because you actually, to a degree, hear what a deaf person would hear. It's just like mumbling, and it's like so, it's horrible.
Wait, so he just goes deaf like suddenly?
Yeah, he's like on tour and then he like finishes like the end of a gig, and then it just gets to a bit when he's just like just hitting the drums, and then it just kind of goes really quiet, and he's just like. And then just like walks out the gig, and his girlfriend's like, what's going on? And he's just like, I can't hear anything. And then he goes to see a doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, you need to like stop like hearing like really loud stuff. Like if you do it one more time, you're going to lose your hearing. And then he just went straight back to playing a gig. Totally fucks his ears. Definitely happens, for sure.
Is it based on a true story?
Probably is. I don't know. I feel like it probably is based on actual events. Like there's definitely people that go on tour and get like tinnitus and like become deaf. Back in the day anyway, like AC/DC, they're like 50 amps on stage, all on 10. Like that will fucking blow your ears out. It's a lot.
How long were you gigging for before you started getting the ear protection and stuff?
We started in 2015, like the start of it, and then maybe by mid 2017 we were like touring a bit, and then we were like, yeah, we're gonna get in-ears. So we got them when we had like a bit of money to spend on them. We got like some of the cheaper ones, but totally life changing. We had to change though, because I've like obviously been playing guitar since I was like 15 or something. maybe even less, maybe even before then, and gigging since I was like 15. So I've always been playing without, and like you get such a different feeling, such a different sound as well.
Good, different, or do you prefer it now that you've got them in?
I like both, but I understand that. I mean, I do prefer playing without in-ears, but you do get to hear more with in-ears. But it's just less vibe. But you need to understand that, like, if you don't use them, then you're not going to be able to hear for the rest of your life. So that's just that.
It's a small price to pay.
And but also, like, you can like walk anywhere on stage and you've still got the same sound no matter what. Where like if I'm standing like in front of your guitar amp, it feels amazing. You could feel the weight of everything, like the sound behind you, and you can obviously feel it. But the minute you step away from it, you can't fucking hear anything if you're not getting any ears in. And there isn't like monitors across the whole stage, so it means I can like run anywhere and have the same sound, which is that's pretty cool. I've came to enjoy the benefits of it now.
It kind of takes the pressure off a little bit then, maybe. Makes you a little bit more free.
Yeah, but sometimes like everything's so loud that you're just like, oh shit, I can hear every note I'm playing. Where in actual fact, not everyone can hear every single fucking tiny note that you play. So you get a bit insecure sometimes because you're like, oh shit, like everyone can hear this. Oh, did you hear that mistake? And everyone's like, no, because you're like tucked in the mix. It's so funny.
When you go to gigs, does it kind of make you hear them differently now? When you've been touring for like, I don't know, what did you say, 4 years now, pretty much non-stop?
Yeah, pretty much.
2017.
It's been it's pretty full non-stop since 2017 till maybe March last year. But yeah, I don't know, still really enjoy going to watch gigs. And before, I think, I used to love going backstage and like watching people then, but now I'd just rather be out front and hear it properly through the speakers, like the way it's supposed to be. Right before lockdown, I managed to see Tame Impala at the Forum in LA,
nice.
like twice. That was like my final blowout. I got Tame Impala the Wednesday and the Thursday, and I was supposed to go and see the Strokes on the Saturday, and I woke up on the Friday and we were in lockdown, and I was just stuck in LA for like 3 months. It was mental.
Did you not bump into Tame Impala as well when you were like 15 or something?
Yeah, like I knew, yeah, my uncle knows the guy that does monitors for Foo Fighters. So when I was like 15, they were like, my dad was like, we've got tickets to go and see the Foo Fighters in Milton Keynes, so drove all the way down. I didn't know anything about like getting backstage or that, and we just got there and we just suddenly had these backstage passes that my dad didn't really be like, do you know where we're going to go with these? He was just like, we'll just go in this gate. And we just kind of kept walking and kept walking and kept walking, and then all of a sudden like Biffy Clyro and Kevin Parker and Dave Grohl and that are just like sitting in this wee pub just drinking beer together. I was just like, I think that definitely a seminal moment of me going, this is great, like look at the size of the production and all this. Like I definitely wanted to be involved in something like that, like music on that big scale.
It's almost like Hollywood, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just some kind of magic to it. It was mental.
How long were you in LA for then, if you got stuck there for lockdown?
So stuck there, well we ended up in Australia started last year, and then we came back, so we're in LA for like couple weeks, came back here, done the NME Awards, and then flew back out. And then we were there from March to like July, just like there, but like nothing open. So it was just really weird. It was a strange
experience. Stuck in a wee apartment,
pretty much. But I just bought a new laptop, which is like the first laptop I had in a couple of years. So I was like, and like started learning the like production and stuff like that.
I imagine you kind of see your progression change pretty drastically over that 4 months then, if you're stuck into nothing else to work on.
Yeah, definitely from back then to now, I'm like, oh shit, I've learned quite a lot. I've just tried to be productive at least, like in lockdown, because I know a lot of people just haven't. Well, it's hard to like be productive when you're just stuck in the house all the time. Yeah.
Do you ever get that kind of cage tiger thing?
All the time.
You just need to get,
I get super claustrophobic, and but obviously like we've just been like constantly moving for the last 4 years, and now to be like in one place at one time for such a long period of time is just the strangest thing ever. Like trying to get over that is just weird. I love traveling, I love moving about, and I get so bored so quickly. Like that's why I could never have a job where I would just have to stay in the same place all the time. I used to work in like the shoe factory in Livy, and I just hated it because it was just like the same place every weekend. I would just come in and I'd be like, this fucking warehouse again.
What do you learn about yourself then when if you've been going non-stop for 4 years and then you stop and suddenly everything changes?
I don't know, I feel like more of a human, if anything, because I don't know, you go on tour, you're just moving about all the time, and like you're in such a set way of life of the same thing happening all the time. Like, it's just like get in hotel for like an hour and then straight to the venue, set up, and then it's just waiting about a dressing room. And usually the life of that we live is 90% waiting about in airports and hotels and venues, 10% on stage. But 90% waiting about, whether that be like traveling, waiting about, or like actually just waiting about in a venue. But yeah, it's weird to not be in that cycle now. Because I used to come off tour and just like try and walk into a city centre or just like walk about the shops and be like, oh, I feel like a normal human being now. It's good to have it's been a good little break, but I'm definitely itching to get back now. I'm kind of like, fuck, I need to get back to touring.
At what point did the balance shift? When did it go from it being a nice break to I need to get back?
I think I definitely enjoyed most of last year. Just like, I was quite happy just chilling. But the start of this year, I was like, after Christmas, I felt like, oh, definitely want to just go back to it. But I mean, who actually knows when we go back to it? But hopefully at some point this year.
Yeah, I think end of the year maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. The dates are always shifting here and there. But yeah,
the light at the end of the tunnel just keeps getting further and further away.
I know. Right now, it feels like the end of the summer might be the vibe of like things are actually going to happen, which would be great.
Transmit, isn't it? It's been announced.
Yeah, Transmit's been announced. We're doing Biffy Clyro like the day before it as well.
Is that Bella Houston?
It was supposed to be, but now I think it's the same. It's basically just we're playing Transmit, but not actually playing Transmit. I've never been to Transmit. It's so frustrating. I've been to like every Tea in the Park since like 2011, and then the minute Transmit happened, I moved away, and I just never got to go to it.
You just on tour all the time.
Yeah, I would love to come to it, but it's not going to be Tea in the Park, is it? You can't really camp in the mud.
Nah,
it's lost its charm of that.
It's a weird kind of vibe.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, the closest thing I came to it was I seen Stone Roses in Glasgow Green, so it's probably the closest thing to it.
That's probably better than it.
It was pretty good. I've seen them a bunch of times, and that was definitely the best time. That was like 100% the one. Them and Primal Scream.
Have you seen them a bunch of times? Because were they not only back for like a couple of years or whatever?
I've seen them. They came back, done Tea in the Park 2014 or something. Maybe it was something like that. That was quite good. I didn't really know them at the time though. Like I never really got into them. But then when I seen it live, I was like, yeah, I understand it now. Because I like listened to them, I didn't understand the whole like culture and the music behind it all. But then actually seeing them live, it was like, yeah, this is fucking great. It's just like Led Zeppelin on steroids to a degree. Yeah, then I seen Glasgow Green, and then I played Tea in the Park again, but they were piss poor.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, they were just shite. I don't know. I think they just toured so much that Ian Brown just couldn't sing.
His voice is usually a little bit gone though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Nowadays.
All the time.
We were speaking about Begin Again a little bit earlier on. I think, have you been getting quite into your movies kind of since the touring stuff?
I've always been quite into movies, so I always like try and watch a lot of movies. Yeah, probably touring, never watched as much movies, but then the minute I came off, I was like, oh man, I'm just going to watch everything I possibly can. So I can't say his name, but the guy that directed Parasite, I've been watching all his movies.
Bong Joon-ho?
Yes, that man there. I watched Snowpiercer the other night.
Brilliant film.
Amazing movie. And then Okja, also fucking great.
Also very good.
Yeah.
You've seen The Host?
I haven't seen The Host. Is that good?
Host's worth a watch. It's pretty freaky, but it's about like a monster that comes up from the river in Korea, and they poison it with like chemicals or whatever and create this weird thing. But
is it in Korean?
Yeah, subtitled.
Fair. I actually did like watching Parasite in Korean. Like I actually thought it was more captivating. Like not being able to look away from the screen, look at your phone, because it was just like, if you don't look at the screen for five seconds, you've missed like an entire scene. You don't, because you can't hear it. I love that. That's great. Genius.
Yeah. Do you tend to go subtitles or dubbed? Would you always go subtitles?
Oh, subtitles. I'd rather just do subtitles for sure. Like what is it, like the old Jackie Chan movies? We're like his mouth moving.
Just slightly at a time.
Oh, it's awful.
Just enough to piss you off.
Yeah, exactly. That's so disorientating. I hate that.
Is it a similar thing when you watch movies and someone's playing guitar and they're not actually playing it?
Yeah, for sure. It's usually so obvious. I know, but dubbed is like they're saying it in like Chinese or like Korean or whatever, and then like English words are coming out. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
it's like those old cowboy films as well. The ones that were all, the spaghetti westerns filmed in Italian, and then Clint Eastwood's like dubbed over the top or whatever.
That's awful.
When was the last time you got lost in a film? Like it was like pure like escapism?
I think Parasite's definitely one of them. I think Sound of Metal was as well. It's just one of those movies where you put it on and you just like get lost in it. But usually when I put a movie on, I'll just like turn all the distractions off and just sit and watch it. Because that's probably the best thing about watching movies is the escapism that goes with it. That's why I miss the cinema so much. So you go to the cinema, there's no distractions. You're in watching a movie, that's it. That's great. That's just the ultimate, like, that's what I usually do on tour. If I get a day off, I'll just quit the
unless
cinema.
there's some bellend on his phone the whole way through.
Yeah, or that.
That's why I always say cinemas are the perfect thing if they weren't filled with people.
Oh yeah, there's nothing better than going to cinema and there's no one there. I think I seen Birdman in the cinema and no one was there. It was just me and my cousin. We just went.
That's the film to get lost in as well.
The entire movie just ourselves. It was so good. You can sit anywhere you want. Chilled. It's the best.
Where's your go-to spot then if you can sit anywhere you want? Right in the middle?
Yeah, you go for the prime spot where the prime sound is. That Big Bang Theory seat.
Did you not have a run-in with Leonard as well?
Yeah, we did actually. Where it was like right at the end of a tour, we were putting Shine down at some like kind of one-off gig. I can't remember where it was. It was like Minneapolis or something like that. And then from playing guitar, and then kind of look back to look at my tech to like anticipate the next guitar change. And then just Leonard for the Big Bang Theory, he's like standing behind my amp. I was like, that's such a strange person that you would never think that he would just be standing behind your guitar amp. Like, I've looked back and seen like Dave Grohl, and he, like, obviously that's like, it shocks you, but it's something that you would more anticipate happening, like someone like a musician doing that. But nah, Leonard for the Big Bang Theory.
What was he doing there? Did you ever find out?
I think he's a big Shinedown fan, and I think he's I think he might be friends with them as well. But yeah, it was just a bit of a weird one. It's like when I went to the Foo Fighters that time when I was younger, Simon Pegg was there, just chilling, just a big Foo Fighters fan.
What year is that? That'll be like peak Simon Pegg, like Hot Fuzz era, would it?
This is 2013, I think, something like that.
Or a little bit later on, World's End kind of time.
Yeah, the end of the Cornetto trilogy.
Such a good bunch of films.
Oh, I know, they're great. Classics.
Do you ever get used to those kind of moments though? You know, or does that never really go? Like what you were saying there with like Dave Grohl or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I reckon the next time anything that happens, I'll just be like, I don't know. I'm quite good at just like not overly showing my reaction to things. But you do kind of get used to the mental stuff happening, like going to festivals and then just being around like some of your favourite artists and stuff. Like being backstage and like Kevin Parker's walking about. I usually try and don't talk to them.
You try and don't talk to them?
Most of the time, yeah. Unless it just like casually comes up, because I just don't want to be that annoying person that like talks to people. Like I remember like Cal Jam, I was standing like at this like barbecue thing backstage, and I just noticed over this little river thing, Matt Helders was there, and I was just like, why is he here? And he was playing with Iggy Pop, and so was Josh Homme, who's like my favourite person in the world. And I was standing like maybe like a metre away from Josh Homme at one point, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to talk to him, fuck that. No chance.
So what do you say though?
Yeah, what do you say, and what do you say that they've not heard before? And also like, I don't really want the person that I think I'd admire the most musically to be like, oh, what a fucking twat. Do you know what I mean?
I guess if it's in a backstage setting as well, that's the one place they probably think they're free from it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like someone going up and speaking to them, and then
yeah, unless you like, I don't know, unless this conversation strikes up or something like that, that's when I'm just like, this is fine. And usually people are just really nice in those settings. But if you like kind of catch them off guard, they're just kind of like, oh, it's not really going to be what they're actually like. It's going to be them like, oh, just leave me alone.
Yeah, it can be quite awkward.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I remember I bumped into Julian Casablancas when I was in Spain one time. I was at a festival going to see him, and we like went to the town for a few days before, and I just bumped into him in a park, and I just said like hello and like how's it going and all that. Like, kind of just gave him a nod and whatever, and was just like all right, and that was it. And I felt good about that, and all my pals were like, oh, you know, you should have gone up and said something to him. I kind of felt all right with just saying a hello.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I don't know what else I would have said.
Sometimes I've been like at a festival walking by someone, and you catch the eye of someone, and you're just like, how you doing? And you keep going, and that's enough for me sometimes. I've done that with the Queens of Stone Age guitarist Troy, just kind of walking up, and he was walking towards me in this like pinstripe suit, and I was like, how you doing? And he was like, all right. Just kept walking. I was like, I'm cool with that.
It's a very Scottish way to do it as well, isn't it? Don't show any emotions, but still make the connection.
Just a nod. All right.
Did you not end up having a run-in with Ozzy, though, in like a more direct way? Were you not speaking to them for a little bit?
Yeah, we got invited to his EP launch at the Rainbow Rooms in LA. And just in the corner of the room was just like Chad Smith from the Chili Peppers, Ozzy, Sharon. But yeah, but I just kind of looked back at one point and Yungblud is just like sitting there with all of them. And he's like, oh, come over. I'm like, oh, what? And I just kind of got up like a couple beers deep. Security guard wouldn't let me by, and then they were like, oh, actually it's fine, and they let me back, and I just kind of sat down for like a couple minutes and was like, oh, how you doing? And they were really nice, but that was like such a nice casual setting. But yeah, mental.
Yeah, well, it's a natural setting.
Yeah, it was quite a natural thing.
Do you feel like you're kind of where you want to be in terms of that? Like you're not quite like center focus all the time, but you're still involved in that world. Yeah. You're kind of in the sweet spot where you don't get all the fandom directed directly at you, but you still get to be in it.
It's nice. I don't think I would like to be like super famous. I've seen I've just seen it. Like I've seen it too many times through friends and stuff like that, how manic it can be. Like same with like Dom or like Lewis, like going through the airport, just like have people come up to you all the time. Which like they deal with it completely fine, but there's definitely times where you're not feeling up to talking to a random person, which obviously admires you a lot, and it's a big moment for them, but you might just be in a bit of a bad mood. I would hate to like ruin someone's experience just by me being a knob, because I'm just like, oh, I'm so tired, leave me alone.
You don't even think of there's like a constant social pressure then on you that isn't there otherwise.
Yeah.
That way you're saying that you never want to ruin someone's experience.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're like that famous and stuff like that, then for sure. But yeah, I'm kind of in a nice sweet spot, because I still get to like meet a lot of your fans and stuff like that, and they're all like so lovely. But I can kind of pick and choose my moments to a degree. I like to keep it that way.
Pick and choose? What would you choose? What do you mean?
I don't know, just like there's times where I can just stay in the bus and just be like, do you know what, I'm just going to wait till later when all the fans aren't there, because Dom's just gets off the bus and there's just like a million fans sometimes, or sometimes depends where the bus parks. But yeah, there's sometimes I'm just like, do you know what, not feeling that today. But they were going to expect him at any time, so they could just think I'm away or like I'm already in the venue or something. But if you're feeling up to it, sometimes I like to get up and go for it.
Nice to make the connection.
Yeah, I'm just like a very anxious person, so sometimes I get really bad social anxiety, and sometimes I don't. So,
and it's like that times by 100 because it's so intense and focused on you. Like normally when you have social anxiety, you can kind of, when you're walking past someone, you can try and make that step in your head where you say, they're not actually looking at me or caring about
exactly
what I'm doing. Whereas with that, you know they are. You know they're kind of focused on you. I think it's social anxiety
about like going to a party and speaking to one person. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you get that, and I get that sometimes, but yeah, doing that, but then it actually is like 50 people standing outside the bus all like trying to talk to you. It's just like, sometimes I'm just like, Jesus Christ. But it's mental. The Yungblud fans are absolutely mental. It's insane. It's a nice feeling, especially like being on stage and like seeing all of that craziness and stuff. It's just fucking amazing.
Do you remember the first time you experienced it off the stage? That kind of chaos and that intensity that fandom can bring?
Yeah, we're playing in Amsterdam, played in the Melkweg, and we just like, I don't know, we just had some sort of fan base out there that was like, had caught on before anyone else had. So they were like, oh, we're going to go out to the Melkweg, and we played this venue. I think it was the third floor in the Melkweg. It's still a pretty decent sized room, decent stage and stuff like that. I mean, we came on stage and it was just like no other gig we had ever played. I mean, we came off and we didn't have like security. We didn't really have we didn't even have a tour manager. It was just like the skeleton crew, and we were just like, holy shit. Like it was just the strangest thing about experiencing that. But yeah, quite addictive. Like for that feeling of coming off stage and like having that energy and stuff like that. I don't know, the only thing that comes close to that now is like finishing a song that you're like working on and you're like, fuck yeah, this sounds great. It's like the same hit of whatever that is, the magic. How often do you finish a song? I mean, there's finishing, and then there's finishing, and then there's mastering. Yeah. I don't know, I wrote a song with Luke recently that I really liked, and when we finished like writing it, I've not mixed it yet, but the minute when we finished writing it, I was like, felt fucking buzzing after it. I was like, this sounds fucking great. And it's the same kind of feeling. But I finished at like 10 o'clock at night, so I was just like high as fuck for hours just off this like euphoria of finishing the song. Like, fuck, this is great. I know, and then there's mixing a song. Like I'm mixing a song right now, and I mixed the song last month, and by the time I finish mixing the song, my ears are like bleeding, and I'm just like, I don't even know what this sounds like anymore. And I'll show it to someone, and they'll be like, "No, this sounds really good." And like I've just heard the song that many times, and all the different parts that many times, that it just becomes mud almost. And that's even taking breaks and stuff. I'm just like, I've heard this song like 150 times now.
Does the focus when you're mixing a song like that and the focus you have on stage differ? Is it a different kind of thing?
You definitely go to the place, whatever place it is. It's the same kind of place where you just kind of get lost in it. Like I'll sit down and start mixing something or like working on a song, and I'll just kind of blink, and then it'll be like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, fuck, I've missed the whole day. I haven't stood up in like 10 hours. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I do love playing live, and there's obviously you're connecting with people off stage and people on stage while playing live. So there's like a bit more of there's a different feeling, obviously. And not to mention, you're probably half drunk as well. So there's different feelings to that. But yeah, there's definitely a similar feeling there. I think that's why I got so addicted to like writing and mixing and producing and stuff, and just being like trying to be as involved and getting lost and doing something.
It's almost like you've substituted the addiction for getting that buzz every night when you're on tour.
Yeah.
For the buzz of like finishing a song or like working on something with someone.
Yeah, it's the closest thing I've came to it, I think. I done a Twitch live stream a couple of weeks ago, and I think that was also a close feeling to like playing live. It was so weird. I never really thought of myself doing something like that, but I was talking to Charlie, the Pale Waves bassist. He was like, "Oh, we should do like a Warzone live stream on Twitch," and I was like, "Fuck it, yeah, let's do it." Because I play Warzone like. That's my downtime. I play that with my cousins and stuff. That's like my family catch up time. And yeah, like me, my cousin, and Charlie got on, and we just live streamed for like 4 hours, and I just had like loads of Yungblud fans in the chat and stuff. It was so fun. Honestly, I had the best time. But I don't always. I can only do that when I'm home because I've not got like a setup here to do it.
I do like a webcam and stuff.
Yeah, I've got like a webcam, and I've got like a whole like setup in my little studio thing back home where I can like do the live stream thing as well as like play on Xbox. But I've got a PS4 here, and I fucking hate playing PS4. I'm so bad at it. I generally can't grasp the controller the same.
I'm the opposite. That's the only thing I can go to.
Fair. I used to have PS3, but then I sold it and bought a guitar, and that was me being like, right, stop playing games and let's like get more serious about music. So I done that. But during lockdown last year, me and Tom Palin, our photographer, we got an Xbox, and we just fucking played it all the time. So good.
It's funny you were speaking about Simon Pegg earlier, because I remember when he was writing Shaun of the Dead, he did a similar thing where in order to finish writing the script, he sold his PlayStation.
Really? That's
just
amazing.
so that the distraction was gone and he could get the focus he needed.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just at that point in high school. It was like everyone was playing COD all the time, and it was so fun. I remember I actually miss how fun it was. Because I would go on, it wouldn't be like 4 of your friends would be on, it'd be like 50. Like the entire school would all be on playing. And then I just had a point, I was like, I'm not really going to make money from doing this. Little be knowing that fucking Twitch streamers and YouTubers are one of the richest fucking artists right now. Ridiculous. But yeah, I was like, I need to actually get serious about music. So sold it, and my granddad gave me some money, and I bought a Telecaster, like a new guitar, just to make me want to pick up a guitar more than the one I already had. And I played it. I still have that guitar. I bring it on tour all the time.
How old were you when you got it? What kind of age were you when you sold the PlayStation?
Well, like 15. I think it was like 15. And then like shortly after, me and Capaldi started like gigging, doing covers and stuff. And then we just like support my dad all the time. My dad's also a singer. He does like weddings and stuff. So we would just go down and like play some songs and drink some illegal pints. Just get paid in beer. I don't know.
Did you have a drive from quite early on though? Like 15 is quite an early age to be like, right, I'm selling this, I'm buying a guitar, and I'm doing this.
Yeah, like I had never really played live, and then we started being in bands, and we done a couple like gigs as bands, and then done a couple jam nights and stuff. And then every band we started would just fall apart because the drummer or like the bassist we were just like, fuck this. So we didn't like start a band together. It was just the two of us just doing covers, and we got asked to do shit like that all the time. And I pretty much just learned to play guitar on stage from doing that. Like Lewis would just be like, every weekend he would come up and be like, oh, I've just learned this new song, it just came out. And I'm like, I don't know it. So then I just have to figure it from like him just playing the chords to like come up with stuff behind it. And that's pretty much how I got into writing music. Just playing guitar wise, like writing guitar parts along to just random songs. Then you can eventually just use them for your own songs because it's not actually, it's not actually, and I just was making stuff up on the spot. But I made so much mistakes, like literally just like carved that out on stage, like making mistakes and going, well, I definitely won't do that one again.
That's how you get good at like getting into the flow of it though. It's the same thing with this. It's like if I do this and I don't have as much prepped as I should, the only way you get better at reacting in the moment is by just doing it. There's no other way to throw yourself in the deep end.
Absolutely. And same like with producing right now, like I'll literally open up Logic every day just to do something, because I know that if I don't go in it for 3 days, then I open it back up and I feel a bit lost in it. I'm like, what was I doing again? How do you do that again? I'm just like, fuck that. I need to make a conscious effort every day to like pull something up and just like at least do something, just so you're like giving it a whack anyway. When
you're doing something, is that you writing another part for the song, or are you just kind of going through and like tweaking various bits and tightening it up a bit? Or
sometimes it's like, sometimes I'll open up sessions and try and finish them, or I'll do like little mix and stuff, or I'll just like, sometimes I'll just open stuff up and just stacking loads of stuff up and start trying to like write ideas. I might start off with a keyboard part and then I'll end up playing guitar to it, and then I'll delete everything else and just keep the guitar part. Just like something always leads to something else that's usable, I think. And then and sometimes people need guitar loops and I just send them stuff like that. So I've just like got a Splice library of just shit like that.
Would you ever write stuff just as like an exercise that's not for anything? Like would you ever just sit down and like try and write a beat or something?
Yeah, all the time.
Like something completely obscure? Yeah.
I've got so much songs like that. I've got like loads of songs that will probably never be released, that me and my girlfriend have sat and wrote just on a Saturday night for something to do. Like instead of like sitting watching TV or watching a movie or like going out, we'll just like, I'll just have a couple of pints or something and we'll just sit in the studio and just write a song. And I'll just mix it and produce it and just be like, cool, whatever. That can go in SoundCloud for my private
It's good
SoundCloud.
That you still have a space where you can just be free in it though.
Yeah.
Like it's completely no pressure. Not many musicians still have that.
I think it's just good practice. Like the more songs you write, the better you get. So I've probably wrote like 1 million shite songs, but there's a couple decent ones in there. But like the more you write, they generally just get better. So I'm always just going for it in that sense. It's good to do that on your off time sometimes as well, but I've learned that you can also burn yourself out by doing it. How
do you see that coming now? Like, can you feel yourself start to get burned out and kind of pull back, or?
Yeah, I've learned to just go, do you know what? I need to take a couple of days off. I've started watching Sopranos, so I've just been blasting that. Anytime I'm like, my head hurts of like music and I can't be bored with it, I'll just start watching like 7 episodes of Sopranos in a day.
Where you were saying, where is your little studio space?
So I've got mum and dad stay in Scotland, so I've been up there. I go up there to do sessions with Luke in St. Phoenix, and there's going to be swim school next week as well. So I've got a space up there, and then I've been living in Manchester with my girlfriend and her band, just like recording. They've got a studio down here, so I've got like a little space down here and a little space up there. But ideally, hopefully get a flat in London at some point in the next year, and then I can get literally, like, I can have one studio space where that'll be all my stuff. That's the dream, because working at mum and dad's house is a pain in the arse. But they're quite good. They're like, it'll still be like 11 o'clock at night and I'll have the speakers blasting in the studio and they're just like, whatever, he's got shit to do. So they kind of let me off with the most of it, to be fair.
You're sitting there, you don't really live anywhere at the minute and you kind of bounce around quite a bit. Do you have places in your mind that you want to live? Do you have places that you think I might like to go there at some point and kind of be there for a few months, maybe even in 10 years or something?
I definitely want to live in London. Like I moved to London when I was like 20 and I lived there for like a while and then started touring and it kind of wasn't like justifiable to like get a flat there. And now I just like, I can't find the money to like put away to like go and live in London when I could end up going on tour in the next week. I mean, probably not, but I don't want to get like whisked away on tour and then I'm still paying rent for somewhere that I'm actually not going to be in. So I don't know. I want to go and spend some time in Paris. I'd love to live in Amsterdam for a bit. And I would generally see myself like retiring in Sydney or something. It's literally the best place in the world. I love Australia.
I feel like Australia is the perfect mix between the UK and America.
It really is, honestly. Like, it's the best place ever. Every time I go there, I just have the best time. And yeah, it could be amazing having like a beachside studio or something like Kevin Parker does with a dream.
It's like that video, was it not, when he made, was it Inner Speaker or Currents? You know, when it's the kind of beach house and he's looking out. It might be Lonerism. You know, the video where he's making it looks like the ocean.
They're doing a live stream next week. I think it's next Tuesday or something like that. Well, them playing, I think it's Inner Speaker. Like at that house, it's like a live stream gig that everyone can like go and watch. So I'm probably going to tune out of that. I'm a massive Tame Impala fan.
Had you been to Australia before you toured there?
No. I went in 2017 at the end of like a year. That was like the final place we went to tour. And we just had like a 1 or 2 gigs, and then Dom had a bunch of press. So I just had so much free time there. And it was just, I just had the best time. It was so fucking good. But I've seen most of Australia now. I've not been in New Zealand. It's the one place I want to go, but I've been everywhere else in Australia a good couple of times now, and it's just like the best. I managed to sneak in a quick holiday there, like at the end of a tour, like right at the end of last year. No, start of last year, January. Finished the tour, and then we just had like 10 days off in Sydney, and it was just like, it's just the best. Stayed at Bondi Beach. Is that a tourist holiday, or do you just sit on the beach? I've got a family friend that lives there. So he was in New Zealand with his wife, so he just let us have his place for like 10 days, and like he's just an absolute legend. It's so good there. It's quite touristy, Bondi Beach, but I don't know, I've spent enough time there that I kind of know, like there's a chip shop that we always go there, and I'm pretty sure the woman's Scottish that owns a chip shop. So every time we go in, she just immediately is like, oh, you're the guys from Yungblud, because we go in there that much. And I've got some friends in Sydney as well, so every time we're there, it's just like, we just like fit in so well. It's great. And the great thing about being Scottish is that whenever you go anywhere and you find someone else who's Scottish, it doesn't matter where you're from, what your views are, you instantly connect, because you're just like from this tiny place of like 5 million people. So many people like that. It's hilarious. Yeah, I've met so many people like that are Scottish that I'm still friends with now. Like maybe just in LA, and then they hear your accent and they're like, "Where the fuck are you from?" Like, from Scotland. And immediately best friends for life. I've got so many friends like that. I've got a friend called Paul that I met in LA, and he's like way older than me. He's like the most gorgeous model looking guy ever. And me and my uncle were just like walking about LA. He was trying to take a picture of me in front of this billboard to send to my dad, and then all I heard is this Scottish voice being like, "Do you want a hand with that?" And we all turned around and went, "Where the fuck are you from?" I'm still friends with him. That was like 4 years ago.
Wait, so does he have anything to do with music, or is he just a random guy you bumped into on the street?
But pretty much just a random guy I bumped into the street, and then he came to our New York gig, which was the following week, because he lived in New York at the time. And then every time I would pass through New York then, I would just meet up with him. And he would like show me like loads of stuff in New York, because like New York's just so big, and I was always so confused by it. And you spend so little time there, like just like in and out, whisked away. So he would just like tour me around New York and stuff. But he's a legend. Amazing.
What do you do with your downtime on tour? You know, we were saying earlier that it's 10% playing, 90% waiting about. What are you going to do to keep yourself entertained? And
back then, probably a lot of drinking. But I do read quite a lot now. And I mean, I reckon if I went back on tour now, I'd probably just try and do like a lot of writing and production stuff. Just because I've got like a bit of a portable setup now, I would just do all of that on tour on the side. But yeah, generally just a lot of traveling. So probably do watch quite a lot of movies when you're on flights, and like read a lot and stuff like that. And then yeah, listen to a lot of music if anything. I do play quite a lot of guitar on tour. And then if I'm in a city, then I will always try and go and like eat some different food. Like local food? Yeah, local food, not like McDonald's. like I always love to go somewhere and like seek out the best thing you can get from that city, that like what the city's famous for. Usually we just eat a shitload of oysters and stuff. We just love oysters. Me, sound engineer. Do you ever discover stuff that you've never heard of? Yeah, around New Orleans, and they do like fried oysters that have got like I would never thought you would cook an oyster. That's such a strange concept to me, but it was great. It was very good. What do you cook it in, like garlic or something? Yeah, like garlic, breadcrumbs, and like Parmesan cheese, and then like broiled. They call them char-broiled oysters. And yeah, they're fucking great, unbelievable. Nothing like that. The one thing I really want to try is like all the weird French food, like frogs' legs and stuff. Snails? Yeah, I would literally try any of it. Like, I'm just so curious. So try. I don't know if I could eat a snail. They're supposed to be really good though. They're supposed to be amazing. It's supposed to be just really garlicky. I don't know. I'm curious to try. Like, I would probably try anything, honestly. I bet I've probably read too much Anthony Bourdain, and he's exactly the same. I don't know, I used to be really picky, and then with food, and then I went on tour and tried like sushi for the first time, and was like, oh shit, this is the best thing ever.
Sushi's amazing.
I tried ramen. I mean, Aidan Beattie, Capaldi's bassist, and one of my longtime friends for high school, we randomly bumped into each other in Copenhagen, and he was like, oh, let's go for ramen. And I'd never tried it. This was like the end of 2019. Yeah, we tried ramen, and literally for the rest of that tour, I just ate ramen every day. I would go in another city and just be like, ramen, anyone? I'd just go myself, just go find another ramen spot. And do you know what? I never quite hit the spot as the first one did, so I've been chasing the dragon ever since.
Chasing that first hit.
I know, chasing that first hit. The first ramen. First ramen's always the best.
How did you randomly bump into him?
We were actually we were staying in the hotel that night, and like our tour bus pulled up, and I went up to the room and stuff like that, and then our tour manager texted us and was like, another tour bus has just pulled up outside. And we're like, I wonder who. And then we're like, it looks like some of Capaldi's crew. And then I just texted Aidan and was like, are you at this hotel? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm upstairs. And we just like spent a day in Copenhagen together. It was so random. I think Lewis was like doing press in Paris or something, so it was just me and Aidan. I went to like Christiana and smoked a bunch of weed, and Christiana's just the coolest place ever. It's like hippie land. And then, yeah, I was the one day I was like, I'm not going to drink today. And then he was like, we just got to the pub. It was like 2:00, and the day just spiraled out of control. That's better.
That kind of comes back to what we were saying earlier on about being, one step to the side of the centre. Like, you wouldn't get those opportunities to kind of go and explore if you were constantly in the limelight all the time.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, like, Dom does get like days off. Like, everyone gets days off, but I think Lewis, it seems like when Lewis was on that tour, he was just like, any day off was just a day of him doing press somewhere else. So, but it used to be, or sometimes still is, where I have to go and do press as well, because it's sometimes like a performance thing. But if it's just interviews, I'm out of there, which is great. But yeah, I'd hate to have to do press all the time. It's like so much work, and it's so constant sometimes. You never realise how, like when you're watching like an interview of like an artist doing interview, you never realise that maybe that they've had like 4 interviews before and after that one. I'm probably talking about the same thing sometimes.
Yeah, I noticed that when I'm doing the research for them, and you watch like 5 interviews in a row and they get asked the same first question in all of them, and you think, if these are doing them like over the space of a week, it must just
like, I know that anytime like an artist is in New York, it's just like 3 days of absolute press, and it's like, I've just done Rolling Stone, now you're doing GQ, now you're doing Instagram, now you're doing, it's just this, I've never seen anything like it in my life. I don't understand how people do it sometimes, like be able to talk so much. Like, I'm awful at talking about myself.
I think if you're doing something like a GQ or Rolling Stone, those questions are probably going to be a little bit more.
Yeah, when people have done the research
kind of
like the questions are good, and it's not just like being asked the same thing. I think it's probably harder if you were going through like a breakup or something that was quite public, and then like people just ask questions about stuff like that. Like you're there to promote something, but they're asking you about like fucking just stupid. What's the thing in LA that's just like the worst gossip press ever? TMZ. Everybody just asking TMZ questions, and you're like, fuck off, I'm here to promote an album. Not talk about my ex-girlfriend. People probably get that all the time. Be a nightmare.
I had someone on the podcast of the week who had that exact thing where they put out an album the week before. The whole album was kind of written about this crumbling relationship that they couldn't see at the time, and they broke up the week before the album came out, and then had to spend like a month doing press.
Just
getting asked about the relationship. Then it's kind of falling apart.
That'd be a fucking nightmare. I can't think of anything worse. That's like, I always try and keep my personal life and my work life like a little bit separate. Like, I wouldn't like to like make such a public girlfriend. Like me and my girlfriend just have like her own like space between that, which is great. Like, a lot of your social media and stuff tends to be quite music centered. It doesn't get too close to the I used to do like stuff. I don't know, like I've not been posting as much recently, but like, what is there to post? Like, there's nothing going on. Raman. I'm just sitting in the studio. Even then, like I've been posting a lot about me cooking. That's pretty much it. I've been cooking like a shitload. So I post that if I'm not like, and I don't really tend to post stuff about like production stuff, because I still think I'm shit. And I want to be like posting stuff and people are like, oh, he's not sidechaining that bass properly. I'm like, oh fuck, I look like an idiot now. So yeah, so I'm pretty quiet. But if I'm busy, I definitely like to post a bit more. Like if I'm on tour, the stories are a bit more constant and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of it right now is just me cooking pasta from scratch.
Well, like with a pasta maker?
Oh, by hand.
Wait, so you like roll the dough and then you cut it up?
Yeah, I've got a pasta maker, but I actually prefer doing it by hand these days. But that's the one skill I learned last year, as well as the production stuff. I was like, I'm going to learn to make pasta. And I've done it. I just got proper into it. I love it. It's so fun. That's like my Saturday evening dinner every week, as I'll sit down and make pasta from scratch.
Make the sauce from scratch as well?
Yeah, all the time. Never. Just making pasta from scratch and then using that Dolmino
Tesco sauce.
Tesco home brand sauce. I tend to make it, and then it's usually vegetarian because my girlfriend's vegetarian, so I can't even put parmesan in things now. Who knew?
Do you ever love a process? Is that where that's kind of coming from? The same, like the production and cooking, they're both about kind of, it's a slightly technical aspect to it as well as the creative. Yeah,
definitely a technical aspect to it, and obviously making the sauce is quite creative, so you just kind of do what you want with it. But I don't know, I just kind of like the process of like putting work into something, and like it obviously doesn't take 5 minutes to make. You have to like spend a bit of time in it, and then there's an end product, and then you just enjoy the end product. So it sort of is a bit like songwriting and producing.
It kind of draws a parallel as well between when you were saying how on a Saturday night you might just sit down and make some music, like a beat or whatever, that doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing. It's a similar thing where it's a free space that you can be creative with no pressure.
Yeah, exactly. I like that about cooking as well. I know, it's just always, I'm just a very creative person. I love dipping my hands in like loads of different things. Like I'm playing a lot of piano this year. I never used to play piano. I can't really play piano, but now I can. Just like learning all the chords I can play on guitar but on piano, and I'm like, so then things actually start to make a bit more sense sometimes in certain songs. Like some songs are written in piano and it feels like it's written in piano once you play it, just like the way that it's went. But if you like to play it, I don't know, Karma Police is a good that's a good example. Radiohead, Karma Police. If you play that in guitar, you're like, how the fuck did they write this? The chords are all over the place. It makes no sense. Like it's a nightmare to play guitar. But it's not, but like it's like you wouldn't do that. But then you play the piano, you're like, it's all just laid in front of you. It makes sense. Like where the chord changes actually are.
It's like Smells Like Teen Spirit as well when you see that played on piano.
Yeah, you'd be like, who the fuck would do this? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's like. And yeah, that blew my mind this year when we're in the studio and we're doing that. I was like, wow, that makes sense. Writing stuff on piano is different. You get different songs.
Does that then change it when you go back to write on guitar?
Yeah, because then when you play on guitar, you're like, oh, this is all over the place. But again, I just always think of like the guitar in Karma Police is so cool. Like just the chords, just a genius. But then I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, they obviously wrote this in piano. It's got a certain vibe to it when you're playing guitar back. But you wouldn't have started there with a guitar in the first place. So maybe just like starting on piano, but maybe just even deleting the piano eventually, but then having the guitar part. And you're like, you've got something from something.
How do you choose what you're going to write on now then?
I don't know. Like I get really bored of playing guitar sometimes. I mean, I love playing guitar on stage, but sometimes you pick up a guitar and you just go to like the same thing all the time. And then when I just keep doing that, I'm just like, oh, fuck this. And I'll start playing piano. Like the last song I wrote with Luke was all played on a Whirly. It was essentially a piano. Because I was just like, I'm fucking bored of playing guitar. And he was like, oh, let's play guitar in it. And I was like, I'm going to wait till literally the last minute to play guitar in it. And that's what I've done. It's just the whole process. The minute I pick up a guitar, it becomes a thing. I don't record one guitar track. I'll record like fucking 10. I'll stack them up and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's a whole thing. I'd rather concentrate on the song, which is like, yeah, obviously more important than just a guitar sound.
Are there any other ways you figured out how to do that? Like to approach something in a fresh way other than just switching up the instrument?
I don't know. I always find like I'll start with a chord structure and then maybe I'll be like, oh, this is the chorus. And then I'll write something for the verse. And then I'll end up just being like, the chorus could be better. So then I completely rewrite it, or the chorus becomes the verse. And then you write a better chord structure for the chorus. Stuff like that. Like always just like denominating like between chord structures and stuff like that until you find something that really like has a particular feeling and something you could definitely write a melody to better anyway. I seem to do that quite a lot. Like start writing something like, oh, that's cool, and then that ends up being something like not even main in the song.
Do you learn new things about the way that you write songs as well when you collaborate with other people? Like you said that you're writing with Luke, when you go into that environment and you're writing with someone else, does it make you look differently at how you do things?
Definitely. I don't know, like every time I ever do a session, it literally comes to like the morning before it or the morning of it, I'll pick up a guitar and then everything somehow just makes sense. It's so weird. It's like the pressure of like knowing that I have to go and write with someone else and like bear my emotion and like be like, oh, this is what they think of me, like in a songwriting term. I always get so scared of it. I think the pressure just like makes me see the matrix of guitar. I just like, holy shit, everything makes so much sense. Yeah, but I don't know, I just love writing with other people. It's like writing yourselves, like I can't really sing. I wouldn't like sing a lead vocal on a track. So like I just wouldn't do it. I don't think I'm that good at singing. Like I'll do backing vocals, easy. I've always done that. But like I've accepted that. So I think when I go and write with other people, I just like there's more instruments in the room and the instruments are people. Because everybody's going to play something differently. Even if it's the same part, you're like, oh, can you play a split guitar as well? And I like put one to the left, put one to the right, me and you. And then the blend of the two together, it's just got a certain feel to it.
Just slightly different inflections and they kind of put emphasis on things in a slightly different way.
But every time I write with someone, you learn something new, for sure. Like, I love writing with Luke. We just seem to get on really well recently. Every time we write a song together, I'm like, fuck, this is great.
Do you know that from the off? Like, do you know that from like the first hour of writing with him that you're going to click in that way?
I mean, look, I've just been friends for such a long time that it was like end of last year, I was down in London when things were like somewhat not as locked down and a bit more normal. We ended up going to do a session with Steve Booker, producer. And I had never been to a session with anyone else. So I actually went in and been like, yeah, I'm going to write a song with you. Usually I just come in and play guitar. And then we just sat and wrote a song and it just literally came out and we wrote it in like 2 hours. And we left and we're like, oh shit. So then the other week I was like, oh, let's try something, but like with me behind the desk. And we done it and it was the exact same process. So we're going to do the same next week, hopefully.
I think it's like what you're saying there, it's because you've known him for so long, that chemistry, that kind of base level
connection. I think it's the admiration of the same style of music as well. Like we both love, I think I love everything that he listens to. It's probably the other way around. So you've got such a respect for each other's like choice of music and like genre of music and stuff like that. It's so easy just to sit and write a song that way, where you don't really think too much. You're just like, oh, we'll just do this and just write. That was it.
Have you always enjoyed collaboration? Was that something that always was kind of connected to? Because obviously when you come to creativity and expressing yourself, it's like a singular thing. You start off playing guitar on your own. At what point did you kind of feel the desire to go and work with someone else and collaborate with them and be creative in a setting with other people? I
was always a bedroom guitarist until I was like 15. I would just like sit up in my room with my pedal board and just like and create like infinite delays and just fucking like fuck about for hours on end. But it just gets so boring. Like just playing off someone else. Like when I used to play with Lewis, I think I started off playing in the band and then realised that it was fun, but then didn't really feel that like we all fit together. But then when me and Lewis started writing together and like playing together, then we just kind of got on and we got each other, and it just made it so fun and so easy. Just like, yeah, I think the other thing is being on stage. I would never like to be on stage just myself. I just don't think I would be that comfortable because again, I'm not a singer. I'm more of a guitarist. So like being part of something on stage, like a bigger thing that isn't just you, there's something special about that. Like being part of a big machine that's kind of just going, like the machine of song. And I think that's what I love, playing in like a full band is just great because everyone's got their own little parts and it all makes up something better than the single parts. I used to play in a jazz band in high school and I just loved that. I was just like fucking trombones and like all the woodwind instruments and stuff and brass and stuff in the background, and I'm just playing some guitar chords. And if you soloed all of it, it would sound shit, but then all together it just sounded amazing.
That's always what I used to love. I used to play in jazz bands as well, that when you had a part that you didn't think was interesting, but then when you heard it in the context of everything else that's going on and suddenly you realised that without this part that you think is a bit boring, that solo that's going on over there wouldn't sound
the same,
as incredible as it does if it's not going over the top of it.
We used to rehearse for days, like on weeks, like in jazz band, and it become the actual gig. The jazz instructor would just be like, all right, guitar solo, and I'm like, I've never played a guitar solo on this song the entire time we've been rehearsing it, but he just does it during the gig just to piss me off. But Yeah, I learned so much from that. Just like, you always know what key you're in, and always know that if you had to chuck the solo at any given moment, then you can absolutely do so. Because I remember just being like, oh shit, and playing like 3 notes and being like, oh, fuck, bastard, I can't believe you've done that.
Do you find you learn more from doing in that way than you do from maybe someone giving you like a piece of advice or giving you a lecture or something?
Yeah, definitely learn a lot more from the practical side of things. Like anytime I've learned something big production wise, it's always been in the studio with someone else and watching what they're doing on the computer and being like, so that's why they've done that, and they've done that, and they've done that. I like always learn from that, and I always learn guitar from being on stage and making mistakes and then figuring out what actually works. But like I remember being at uni and just being told like, this is this scale, this is this scale, this is this scale, and like them not showing a practical like sense of why, where or why you'd use like that particular thing. Do you know what I mean? Like they'd be like, oh, here's the Ledonian scale. Here, like, have this. But like they wouldn't be like, oh, this is when you would use it. They just give you it and like learn it, and you had to like do it for the exam and stuff. But then when I'm actually like playing a song with someone or like jamming or like whatever, I would never go to it because it just sounds fucking weird. Because I'm like, no one gave me the context of it. It's just like someone giving you a word in a different language and being like, yeah, that's that word. Like they weren't like, oh, this fits in here. I just took to learning in a different way. Like I know the basics, like the basic pentatonic scales and stuff, and just branching out of stuff like that. Some notes work in certain progressions and some don't, and it's all just like making mistakes and just going with what it feels like. I'm not that up to scratch in music theory, but I'm kind of happy the way I am, to be honest.